My name is Mora NM. I'm the president of the St Vrain Mill Preservation and Historical Foundation. To me, the repair of the wall crack here in the east wall is a bittersweet moment. Everybody who's seen the mill has seen the crack, and now the crack is going away. It's almost as if we are destroying a Mora Valley landmark.
Hi. Hi.
Camera shy?
No me quité para que grabe.
No, you get to work.
Sí.
We're here to do some repairs to this wonderful building we got here, St Vrain Mill. Of course, I was in dire need, so we were contacted and here we are.
I am a St Vrain. And I started my family genealogy. I really am a genealogist. I started that in 1999. And growing up, you know, I'd always heard about Sir St Vrain. His youngest brother, Marcellin St Vrain, is my third great-grandfather. Sir St Vrain had the mill built in 1864 when his mill in Taos burned in a fire. And he was under a lot of pressure because he had military contracts to fulfill for providing flour, particularly with Fort Union. He needed another mill, and he needed it quickly, and that's how this mill came about. It was local people who actually constructed the mill, stonemasons, which is a real testament to their work. And Sir died in 1870. So after that, there were family members that ran the mill. Eventually, the Gallegos family owned it, and that's a little bit of the history that sometimes gets forgotten. We tend to jump from St Vrain straight to Tremblay, but there was this little period of time where there were family members involved with the mill. William Bransford was a manager at the mill for quite a while. And then, yes, it transferred over to it was sold to the Tremblay family, and they ran it for a long time.
My great-great-great-grandfather helped originally build this mill and set it up for its milling operations. My great-great-grandfather then owned the mill from about 1900 to about the 1980s. I believe they tried to keep it going a little bit because they had a store in town. So they would mill for the store we're talking about the 1900 to about maybe the 30s, where it was still pretty operational. I believe to around the start of World War II is when it pretty much was done. And then it became, they still had it in the family. They would store things. They used it as storage for the store, where they would sell hardware, things like that. And then after that, it just pretty much just was a vacant building from, I would say, around the 50s to present day.
There were pieces of equipment within the mill that were sold off for the war effort, which is why today we don't see any of the original mill workings inside. There's a couple of pieces on the third floor, which I believe are still going to be used in the future as a display up on that third floor. But most of the interior of the mill working equipment is long gone. And then it was sold to, I want to say the last name was Montoya, the person with whom, you know, the foundation eventually bought the mill from today. The mill is that tangible evidence of his existence, of his contribution that he made to New Mexico. And that's why it was so important for the family to see it saved. When I first saw those cracks in the wall, that was probably in the early 1990s when I first saw them with my own eyes. And, you know, without sounding too dramatic, it really did seem like the building was crying out, "Save me." And I remember at that time, my mother and I just feeling a sense of sadness because we were certainly in no position to be able to do anything about it. And I remember as we got in the car driving away, that we felt like, wow, you know, we really might be the last generations to see this building standing because it looks like it's going to fall down any day. In reality, it really wasn't, but we didn't know that. Here in New Mexico, it's been a dream come true for me to be able to meet direct descendants of Sir St Vrain, because he's my fourth great uncle. And I've always been curious about his direct descendants. And slowly but surely, you know, they were starting to come forward. They would come to the mill and I would get to meet them in person. And it was just, for a genealogist, it was just a family genealogist, it was just a dream come true to be able to meet them. Then to get them interested in the mill and saving the St Vrain Mill. So I started a Facebook group, Save the St Vrain Mill. And that's generated a lot of interest and given people who do live in the other states or overseas an opportunity to check in every now and then and see what is going on with that mill.
I am part of this group and have been working on fundraising for this group for 15 years. So my part is just I'm amazed that we are finally gotten to this point that we are actually reconstructing the wall.
The two people that are most responsible for this project coming to this point and almost being usable, the two people are Merle Witt and Betsy Block. If it hadn't been for them, this would not be happening, and this building would be well, not quite shambles, but getting there. And they have been the two pillars. They have helped financially, and they have just stuck with it. And I think Merle has been a great leader.
Primarily Merle, but yes.
Merle has been a great leader, and he gets a lot of credit for this. Major credit for this. Persons who are on the foundation board have done incredible work that nobody else would do. It was not a glamorous job hasn't been up to this point, a glamorous job being on this board. We have had to shovel, let's call it bird waste, piles. It was very humbling, and we have had to sweep, and we have had to dust, and we have had to clean, and we have done
numerous
so
times.
much labor as a board. We've painted the window frames. We've
Oh, we did do that. I forgot.
Yeah, we did the window frames.
Yeah.
We've this building was covered with graffiti. Had a big 8-foot band
Well,
around
and
the
Tammy
front.
can take responsibility for that. She found a group of kids that would come from Highlands that came out and helped us get rid of the graffiti.
We had to do it inch by inch, and we
Yeah.
got rid of that, and that was a huge improvement.
The crack here in the east wall of the St Vrain Mill has been around for over a century. We have a photograph from 1915 that shows the crack already 3 or 4 inches wide. 100 years later, the crack had grown to over 8 inches wide. When the St Vrain Mill Preservation Foundation bought the mill in 2015, the first thing we did was hire an engineering company to tell us what the problem was and how to fix it. So we hired Engineering Analytics out of Raton. They did a borehole at the northeast corner of the mill. They drilled down about 20 feet, and all they found was sand, water, and cobbles, small stones. The load-bearing capacity of that soil was much less than the weight of the north wall. The recommendation was to use permeation grouting, where we pump grout underneath the north wall. The grout hardened, expanded, and basically doubled the width of the foundation, and thereby increasing the capability, the load-bearing capability of the soil. So maybe the wall had stopped sinking by that time, but we know from measurements that since then, the north wall has not moved and the building is completely stable.
What we're doing now is we're securing the wall. It is impossible to brace this wall to this area here because of the water and the pond. So we are putting a series of cables that will tie to the wall on the south side. It's just to secure the wall to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. So there'll be a piece of cable that goes from the top to bottom, and that cable will be hooked up to another cable that runs clearly across the building.
Sí, güey. Mira cómo se lleva. Nomás que ahora hay que tratar de cuando estén ciega. Ahora ya la dejamos así. Cuando estén así, albarejarle un poquito para que vamos.
This goes on top of the joist and against the wall. It'll be anchored against the wall and it'll be anchored to the joist. And it'll all be welded together all the way around the building. So it'll be used as kind of like to hold the building together.
And that's on every floor or just
This
the second
floor and the third floor.
Second and third
Yeah.
floor.
Yeah, so if you ask me, that's probably the most genius thing that engineer did. It is, it's amazing. I mean, he knows what he's doing. So yeah, that is really what's going to hold this building together.
being able to use that building today for a community purpose, that's what means so much. If the building does end up being used as a heritage center, which is what we hope, we want to be able to give the people who live in the community an opportunity to celebrate their family, to be able to tell their family stories, because it really does take a village. It really does take a community to make something happen. And the saving of the St Vrain Mill never would have happened without this collective effort. And to see that and to see the fruition of it is a dream come true.